Everything he mentions there is the beta buck side of hypergamy. Doesn't mention whatsoever the alpha side. Doesn't say be attractive, be hot, sling a good dick. There's nothing in, because that's part of male masculinity. That is.
We can get for young men. I like the idea of restoring an aspirational vision of masculinity that can serve as a code. And I don't think there's anything wrong with leaning into your femininity or your masculinity if it feels natural. And for me, masculinity is, and I'm open to criticism here. This is a tough one that triggers a lot of people.
Here we go.
But I think the three pillars are provider. I think every man at the outset of his career should assume that he needs to take economic responsibility for his household. And by the way, sometimes,
or at least for himself.
And sometimes that means getting out of the way of your partner who happens to be better at that money thing and taking up the slack in other parts of the household.
But assume, not being mad about it.
And be supportive.
Yeah.
My partner, when we had kids, was working at Goldman, making more money than me, so I tried to step up. That's also being a man. Two, and this triggers people, being a procreator. I think wanting to mate, that fire of desire, can be channeled, if it's channeled in the right ways, to making you a better man. Making you kinder, making you stronger. For God's sakes, thinking about how you dress, showering for God's sakes. Being persistent, initiating contact. The scariest stat I have read is that 51% of men age 18 to 24 have never asked a woman out in person. And surveys show, distinct to what the media tells you, the majority of women still want men to initiate romantic contact while making them feel safe. Third pillar, you're a protector, right? Your default operating system is you protect. If you think about the most masculine jobs, cop, fireman, military, what do they do at the end of the day? They protect. Your default should always be protection, right? It breaks my heart. And then in New York, if you talk to women, a lot of them say they don't feel safe on the subway. Or if they see men walking down the street, they cross the sidewalk. From an early age, we gotta teach our boys that the transition to manhood means your default operating system is protection. And it's not just physical. It's if you hear people criticizing others behind their back, your default is to weigh in and defend. You may not agree with the transgender community. You may not agree that corporations need to have a third bathroom. You may not believe in gender affirmation. But when you see a group being demonized, your default setting as a man is you move to protection. We are providers, we're protectors, and we're procreators. There is nothing wrong with masculinity. It is a wonderful guidepost. Lean in. We just need to redefine what it means to be a man. You add surplus value. You create more tax revenue than you absorb. You protect people. You witness their lives. You register more complaints than you actually complain. And if you leave this earth having given more than you've taken, then you leave this world as a man. That is what it means to be a man.
The reason why I'm showing this is not to debate the merits of the things that he said, because he's on the complete opposite side of the political aisle than Rollo and I are. The reason why I'm pointing this out, because that man went out on a tightrope right there. For him to be a liberal and for him to say that thing, I congratulate him. I would actually, because one of the things is Dr. Galloway is a very intelligent man, and he can't possibly, same thing with Richard Reeves, if you guys want to watch this. These men are political progressive, they're liberals, but they've come to the same conclusions that we have.
Ignore it anymore.
There's no way to ignore it anymore. They try to demonize people in the manosphere, they try to demonize, they call in whatever name they got to make up to call people, but they can't ignore it anymore. They can't ignore this anymore. I forgot the black guy who plays Captain America. And he was sitting there going over like what the problems were with masculine men today. And I was like, that is incredibly brave for somebody who's in woke-ass Hollywood to say stuff like this. Yeah. The reality of the situation is men do suffer. And yes, in order for us to be a protector, what does that mean? That means we're bigger and stronger than you. Sorry, ladies. Sorry to be the one to tell you this, but we are bigger and stronger than you. And so because of that, we have a duty to be a protector. But in order for us to do that, you have to admit we are bigger and stronger than you. There are differences between men and women. I believe the ultimate form of masculinity is willingness to die for your tribe. That's for me. Willing to solve problems for other people and willingness to die for your tribe. That's how other people define masculinity in the form of how many sports cars you have and how many women you sleep with. I define it as willingness. That's why I joined the U.S. military. Willingness to die for my tribe. That's how I define masculinity, okay? So now, in this situation, I listen to Scott Galloway, and I'm almost like, again, he doesn't need this from me, but I'm almost proud to hear a man who's on the political left saying things that are true, and you see how many times he had to qualify it? I know some people are not going to like this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was like, he had to qualify it several times because he even knows what's going to happen. And if you read Professor Richard Reeves, his book of Boys and Men, he has same thing. He has to qualify it several times because he knows the people on his side of the aisle don't believe in any of this. Men are a privileged class. They cannot suffer. Yeah, well, what about the fact that men are more likely to be victims of violent crimes and more likely to lose their jobs, more likely to be homeless, more likely to suffer from taking their own lives? Yeah, none of that matters. If I went to Princeton, if I went to Harvard, if I went to Stanford right now and said, I'd like to teach a course, it's called Why Men Suffer. What do you think would happen to me? If I went to some Ivy League school and said, I want to make a course called Why Men Suffer,
tenure.
I would lose my tenure in a heartbeat because nobody even wants to have this discussion. The reason why I showed that clip is because the man is a liberal. For a liberal to come up to these realizations, to me, means it is so pervasive. It is Galileo telling the Pope that the earth goes around the sun. At some point, the Pope, the Catholic Church, had to agree and be like, okay, turns out Galileo was right. It only took them 290 years to figure it out, but eventually they figured it out. Go ahead.
Well, the problem is these guys are really good at diagnosing. Even I said this when we interviewed Richard Reeves way back in the day. It's like they're really good at diagnosing the problems, but they're like, when they come up with some solutions, it's some half-ass bullshit solution, or else let's redefine. Their solution is just redefining the problem, right? It's all boils down to like social constructionism and the blank slate and all this other bullshit.
Your value to society is based on your utility. As disgusting and as horrible as that sounds, as incredibly dark as that sounds, if you live your life by that rule, you will find that I am correct. And if you don't live your life by that rule, you will continue to watch pornography and play video games in your mother's basement. Your value to society, not your value to your family, not your value to your pets, not your value to your close friends. Your value to society is based on your utility, not your beauty. It is based on your utility.
Performance.
How much can you perform? And when you perform more, what are you? You're a protector, like what he said. You're a provisioner, and you're a procreator. Those things that he was saying before, those things only happen when you as a man understand that you have a burden of performance, regardless of what Disney, your therapist, your church, and your mom told you. You have a burden of performance till the day you die, and you can disagree with me while some other dude fucks your girl and takes your job. You have a burden of performance. Some women have a burden of performance. All men have a burden of performance. Women can be the captain or the passenger. Men can only be the captain. There's no other way for us to do it. And as much as you guys want to, oh, that's not fair. I agree that it's not fair. It's also not fair that I've never met a single woman in my life who can bench press as much as me. We're different. Men and women are different, and that's okay.
And the way that he frames this, though, is like, I've said this a million times when I talk about female hypergamy, right? There's alpha fucks and there's beta bucks. The beta buck side is what? Provisioning, protection, and parental investment. He wants to call it reproduction or whatever the hell it is. It's the same thing. Be invested in your kids, right? So stick around for the kid, you know, provide resources, territory, and access to beautiful women. That's what has defined powerful men for eons, okay? So you've got protect, provide, and parental investment, okay? All of those, everything he mentions there is the beta buck side of hypergamy. Doesn't mention whatsoever the alpha side. Doesn't say be attractive, be hot, sling a good dick. There's nothing in, because that's part of male masculinity. That is part of it right there. And that when that is brought up, then you're an abuser. Then there's something wrong.
The only things that he felt safe enough to say were take a shower and go approach women, which is true. No, there are guys that are not taking showers. No, that's for real. And the thing is, he doesn't want to go any further than that.
The thing is, every last one of those things, protect, provide, parental invest,
yeah,
they're all investments that serve women. There's nothing, that's the thing that I hate about tradcons and guys like this. I mean, because he's a liberal, right? Yes. But if I'm listening to Matt Walsh, if I'm listening to Charlie Kirk, when I'm listening to Charlie Kirk and they're saying, you don't get to play on your PS5 until your wife is a woman of leisure. She has to have all of her needs provided for, and she's got to quit her job and be there, and then you can finally play Call of Duty, right? And everything that these guys talk about when it comes to male self-improvement, it's not a male problem. The crisis of men, the crisis of masculinity that we have right now is not about guys. It's about women who can't find guys who are eligible bachelors, who make enough money, who can make at least half again what they're making, because men ain't shit. So men need to be shit right now. Now you've got to protect, provide, and be parentally invested. All of those aspects serve one purpose. It serves a female dynamic. Men to be better men, not for themselves, but to be better men, so it solves a woman's problem so that she has somebody that she can marry and she can have kids with and go off into perpetuity with.